Welcome to today's Explainer. Every now and then, you come across a story that just completely challenges the status quo, and we've got an absolutely incredible one for you today. We're going to dive into the true account of a city woman who traveled to a rural village and managed to transform a taboo, supposedly haunted location into this thriving, naturally air-conditioned oasis for her entire family. It's an amazing example of how just shifting your perspective can literally change everything. But to really understand why this story is such a big deal, we have to set the scene. We are talking about 45 degrees Celsius. To put that into perspective, that is a staggering 113 degrees Fahrenheit. It's the middle of May, and the sun is just beating down like fire. The village they're visiting is trapped in a grueling, miserable summer heatwave. The fields are completely cracked and dry, the trees are scorched, and the dusty village roads are practically baking. The village elders are stuck trying to find any meager patch of shade on their porches, dealing with rolling power outages that start at 4 a.m. It's this incredibly oppressive environment that just feels totally lifeless. And right into this boiling pot steps our protagonist, Pihu. She's witty, she's determined, and she's visiting her husband's village with her in-laws. Now the locals, they are absolutely convinced this city girl won't last a single day in this intense heat. They're actually mocking her, predicting she'll be packing her bags by tomorrow. But Pihu, she fires back with this fantastic line. She tells them, "I haven't just brought my suitcase, I brought my cool mind too." She doesn't arrive complaining, she arrives completely determined to outsmart the heat. She even jokes that the extreme temperature might actually spark some brilliant ideas. Which brings us to Pihu's underlying philosophy. The village aunts are understandably skeptical, right? They're asking, why would a comfortable city person willingly put up with this punishing environment? Well, Pihu compares it to the survival show, Man vs. Wild. She argues that stepping out of your comfort zone to face extreme difficulties doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you innovative. She doesn't view this grueling summer as a punishment, but as a challenge to conquer. It's a hugely empowering mindset, and it completely sets her apart from everyone else who is just trying to survive the heat in their dark, sweltering houses. So, Pihu is observant. Looking out from the hot, dry roof of her in-laws' house, she quickly spots a massive contrast in the landscape. While the entire village is parched and brown, she notices this lush, vibrant green area just over a nearby hill. It's the location of a local cave. Think about the contrast here. On one side, you've got a sweltering, dusty village where the electric coolers are just blowing out hot air. And on the other, an environment with massive trees, a clean, flowing waterfall, and naturally cool air just radiating off the rocks. It is literally a natural oasis. So you've got to wonder, if this cave is essentially a giant natural air conditioner, why on earth is it completely abandoned during a 113-degree heat wave? Why did the villagers choose to literally bake inside their homes? Well, the answer comes down to deep-seated superstition. The locals whisper that years ago, a woman went to that cave and claims she felt an unseen, terrifying presence. And because of this vague, generational rumor of a ghost, the whole village is paralyzed by fear. Absolutely nobody dares to step foot near that refreshing waterfall or those cool stone walls. But remember Pihu's cool mind? Yeah, it doesn't really compute a rational fear. Instead of cowering with the rest of the village, she makes a very bold decision. She decides they're going to live in the cave. And I don't mean just visit for the afternoon. I mean actually pack up their groceries, spices, flour, lentils, vegetables, the whole shebang, and move in for the summer. Her enthusiasm is so infectious, and her logic about the natural cooling makes so much sense that she actually convinces her fearful family, her husband Prem, her mother-in-law Vrinda, and her father-in-law Ankush, to pack their bags and brave the haunted territory. They march right out of the village with their supplies, and the locals are just in absolute shock. Now, getting there is one thing, but once inside, they hit their first real challenge: cooking. How are you supposed to cook inside an enclosed cave without suffocating on smoke? Enter Pihu's brilliant Desi Zugad, her on-the-spot resourcefulness. She basically turns into an instant architect. Step 1, she arranges strong, flat stones to build a sturdy base. Step 2, she carefully leaves gaps underneath for perfect airflow to feed the fire. And step 3, this is the real masterstroke. She takes a piece of PVC pipe she brought from the city and routes it through a natural crevice in the cave wall. This vents all the smoke directly outside. Boom, a smokeless, naturally cooled stone stove. And she doesn't stop at the kitchen. Pihu transforms this rocky interior into what her family jokingly starts calling a luxury camp. Using heavy stones as anchors, she has Prem and Ankush gather dry grass, bamboo sticks, and heavy branches from outside. They drape old cotton saris and bed sheets over these frames to create private, breezy little rooms right there inside the rocky walls. It's amazing when you think about it. Outside, the sun is absolutely scorching the earth, but inside their makeshift rooms, the family is actually pulling up blankets because the natural AC from the rocks and the waterfall is just that good. But here is where Pihu's foresight is just next level. She secretly packed seeds. Tomatoes, chilies, coriander, bottle gourd, and okra. She didn't just plan for a quick getaway to escape the heat. She saw the black, fertile, moist soil right near the cave's waterfall and immediately pictured a sustainable food source. Even while her family's joking that she's trying to build a permanent settlement, she's out there planting. It's this incredibly beautiful demonstration of taking an unfamiliar, frightening environment and turning it into a place of life and nourishment. Of course, you can't have an adventure like this without a major test, right? One night, the family is jolted awake by these absolutely terrifying sounds. The wind outside is howling violently, and the waterfall is roaring, and the sound is echoing off the cave walls in a way that sounds, well, almost supernatural. Suddenly, those generational ghost rumors feel very, very real in the pitch black. But Pihu stays calm. She steps right outside into the storm and points out that the ghostly noises are just the massive trees thrashing in the wind and the water crashing against the rocks. It's just science and nature. No spirits here. Okay, so Pihu debunked the sounds of the storm, but there's still this lingering question hanging in the air. Was there actually a ghost in this cave? I mean, these rumors had persisted for decades, keeping hundreds of people away. What exactly started that massive panic all those years ago? Well, once the storm passes and they've got their courage back, Pihu and Prem decide it's time to explore the deeper, hidden depths at the very back of the cave to find out once and for all. As they squeeze through this narrow, rocky passage, they stumble upon a small, forgotten, dust-covered room tucked away from the main cave floor. It literally looks like someone had lived there a long time ago. And right there, sitting in the corner, is an old, small wooden chest. Pihu brushes off decades of dust and opens it up. But she doesn't find some creepy, supernatural artifact. She finds something deeply human, a yellowing, crumbling old diary. When they opened the diary, they read this profound message left by whoever lived there before. He who conquers fear will feel the cool breath of this cave. He who looks with his mind, not just his eyes, will never find darkness here. Wow, that completely subverts all the spooky expectations, doesn't it? The ghost wasn't a literal monster at all. It was a metaphor. It represented the fear that stops people from experiencing the beauty and the safety that the cave actually had to offer. So where did the ghost story actually come from? As they read further into the diary, they uncover the heartbreaking truth. The diary belonged to a very poor ancestor of the village. During a time of extreme poverty and a brutal heat wave much like the one they were in, he and his family had no shelter and took refuge in this exact cave. But he was terrified. He was scared that stronger, wealthier villagers would discover his natural oasis and violently cast his family out. So he intentionally spread the rumor of an unseen, haunting presence. The ghost was literally just a desperate man's shield to protect his family's survival spot. The very next day, a young man from the village named Vivek actually comes up to the cave. He reveals that the diary belonged to his great-grandfather, confirming the whole story. He explains that his ancestor deeply regretted spreading that fear, but he left the diary hoping someone brave enough would eventually return and find it. And with that confession, the generational curse is completely broken. The news spreads like wildfire, and the entire village is transformed. People who had spent their whole lives sweating in fear are now freely visiting the cave to enjoy the natural AC. And the best part? They get to see Pihu's thriving garden of tomatoes and coriander in full bloom. As Pihu's family finally packs up to head back to the city at the end of the summer, they look back at a place that was once a terrifying, abandoned void. Now, it's filled with laughter, fresh food, and community. It really proves that fear makes a place desolate, but courage and love turn it into a home. Pihu's cool mind didn't just beat the 113-degree heat, it melted away decades of irrational dread. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. What irrational fears in your own life might be keeping you out of your own cool, refreshing caves? Think about it. Until next time, keep learning and keep questioning.